Awesome. All right. Nice to see you again, Katie.
Hi,
Um,
Sandro.
Excited to dig into what made your transition to using more AI work for you. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this story. We discussed it a couple weeks ago, and I just really wanted to capture this in this narrative format. So um, why don't we? I'll start by sharing a little bit about myself, and then I want to hear more about you, and then we can kind of go over some specifics of what you went through in the last, was it year, 18 months?
Year, 18
About
months.
year.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so for those of you that are watching that don't know me, my name is Sandro Tuzo. I'm a lawyer turned technologist, primarily in legal technology. And in between my gigs with legal tech startups, I consult small to mid-sized law firms with adopting technology and particularly AI at this point. And Katie, why don't you tell me a little bit about who you are, your firm, and then I want to go into more detail. So just a quick summary, and then we'll go a little deeper.
Sure. My firm is Ad Astra Law Group, PC, out of San Francisco. We've been around since 2014. We're six lawyers at this point. We used to be 10, and we do all litigation, business, employment, real estate, and trademark. We service mostly small and medium-sized businesses, anything a business owner needs in a dispute context.
Great. And you work with clients all across the state or just Northern California? Or,
All over the state.
okay, great. Um, all right. So let's talk about the dramatic 12 to 18 months, the transition years. So tell us about kind of where you were about a year ago, and then what started happening kind of more in chronology format, just so people can kind of follow along.
Sure. So about a year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago, I live in San Francisco. I've got a bunch of friends that are tech folks, and I was introduced to a couple of people that started legal tech AI companies. And these folks came to me and said, "Hey, would you beta test this product?" And I'm fine. Anything for free 30, I will give that a try. And so I met the founder of this software called Legion, and he showed me how to use it. And we started playing with it a little bit. And then I met a founder of a company called Threadio that does deposition and trial summaries and started testing their product. And then I saw a continuing legal education program that featured another AI product that I ended up trying. That one I didn't beta test. I just went and did it. But so this started happening about a year ago where we were introduced to, hey, give this a try. And it was really like no skin off my nose to give it a shot. And then what ended up happening was in May of this year, my most junior associate, who was an eighth year, he got poached. And I ended up not replacing him. I relied more heavily on these AI tools and figured out how to get these tools to produce a first draft that's reasonably comparable to what a junior associate would do. And it's been excellent because not only am I getting faster work product because I control when it comes out, I'm not waiting on an associate schedule. I'm also saving a whole salary and I'm saving my clients a ton of money. And it's just been a revolutionary game changer for both my practice, my bottom line, and also my clients' bottom line.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot. Let's break it down a little bit. Kind of as you started to look at. So it sounded like you were well connected and you were able to meet folks that were doing AI and legal tech. I mean, we are in the Bay Area, so that's not a huge surprise. But for folks in other parts of the country, not as easy to have those sort of connections. You were trying things out, and then was your practice before the associate left? Was your practice area um, steady, or were things fluctuating, and you were kind of developing new lines of business, or were you kind of in a steady state when starting about a year ago?
Stick with the same kind of litigation.
Okay.
Definitely. So
Okay.
that hasn't changed. What we've been doing hasn't changed. The character of our clientele hasn't changed. None of that.
So the associate left, and then were you? Tell me about your thought process. Like when that happened, were you totally fine trying out AI as a replacement? Were you hesitant? Were you thinking about finding another associate? Like, run me through that decision making process.
Sure. So there's some background on that, and that is the firm went through some huge changes. It used to be a partnership, and now it's a professional corporation owned by just me, and I no longer have partners. And I
Aha.
knew that
Okay.
that transition was going to happen. One of my partners shifted out at the end of 2024, and my other partner decided to stay through the summer of 2025. So I knew that we were going to lose a third of our revenue in July 2025. So in May 2025, when the associate got poached, I really thought, hallelujah, because I couldn't afford him anyways. So it was a combination of, okay, can I even afford to hire a new associate given that we're about to lose all these cases that my partner's going to take with him when he goes? Do we need another associate, given that we're going to lose a third of our practice? And with the AI tools that we'd already been using, it was not much of a lift to go ahead and lean into those a little bit more and start practicing with them more. And the more I've practiced, the more comfortable I've become and the better product I'm getting.
Interesting. So it sounds like your choice was fairly streamlined. You didn't, this was probably the best choice, and there weren't a lot of other good options at the time.
It was pretty much necessity.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So you pretty much decided to do something fairly immediately, sounds like. Um, what did you see as your options at the time um, for replacing this staff member, or at least allegedly critical at the time?
Hmm. Well, I have several other lawyers that work in the firm. And so my first thought was let's divide up his cases amongst all these other folks that work in the firm and see if we can get it covered that way. And that worked for a while. But all of my other associates are, 20-year attorneys, 40-year attorneys. These are, of counsel that work with the firm. And these are not folks that do the first draft.
Right.
It's not cost effective to have a $700 an hour lawyer doing the first draft of a complaint or the first draft of discovery. It doesn't make sense. So we needed to find a solution where the blank page problem was solved, and then a more senior lawyer had something to work with to begin,
For
so
those
that
of
we're not.
for those that don't know, what do you mean the blank page problem?
How many times have you sat down to create a document, write a brief, do a memo, write a letter, and you're just poised over your keyboard going, how do I start? So
Right.
what I've found that using the AI, it gives me a draft. It doesn't even matter how great the draft is. It solved the blank page problem. I'm not
Right.
starting from zero.
Right. Right. Okay. So you didn't have the right to start from scratch on new cases. So AI seemed like a good alternative to that, to giving you something to kind of build off of in a cost effective
Absolutely.
way.
And
Okay.
then what I've been doing is having my of counsel and my associates learn all these tools as well so that they can produce their own first drafts and work from there. The
Yeah. And
cost
I,
savings has been incredible.
okay. And I want to jump into that later, like how people received it. You seem to be pretty open to trying new things out. That's, I don't think, entirely true of our profession,
Yeah.
especially more senior attorneys. So I want to get to that, but I'll just put a note for now. And then, what can you give, like, a maybe a high level overview of the different types of tech that that you were seriously considering when you started to jump in? And I know we're going to go and over one particular product in particular, but give folks kind of like a high level overview of what sort of tech you were seriously looking at that time.
Yeah, so there's three big tools that I have used to mostly replace the brain function of a bright younger attorney. The first one is a drafting software that's specific for California litigators. It's called Legion, extremely powerful. It does all my first drafts of motions, discovery, complaints. Really, really effective. I also use a product called Threadio that does all of my deposition summaries and trial summaries. It's so smart, you can upload multiple depositions and trial transcripts, and it will give you a corroboration report and an inconsistencies report. It's extremely powerful. This would have taken an associate days to go through, and it's done in 5 minutes. And the third tool that I use, which is the one that I saw at a CLE a year or so back, is called Depositions by Filevine. It used to be called Depo Copilot. And that's a software that functions like having another attorney or a paralegal there with you, sitting next to you at the deposition, passing you notes about
Hmm.
bad answers that have been given or other documents to ask about, other questions to come up with. And it listens to the deposition and creates a transcript while it's going, and then analyzes what it's hearing and gives you insights on ambiguous answers, incomplete answers, answers that are inconsistent with the documents that you've uploaded to the system, that you've told them these are going to be exhibits and we're going to ask about. And it's more effective than having an actual human sitting next to me. And it's way more cost effective. It's less than the cost of an hour of an attorney's time. And usually those depositions are 8-hour days. It's made it really more effective for me.
When you say more effective than a human, was that immediately apparent or
Immediately.
yeah?
Immediately. It doesn't matter how good of a note taker your sidekick is. It's not a transcript.
Yeah, right. So that sounds like something that you're using in real time on a Zoom depot, probably with two monitors. I'm assuming most lawyers are using two monitors now, but that's probably a no-brainer for a tool like that. And you're kind of
Right.
looking at, you're interacting with the depot and you're looking in real time at insights.
I only
Interesting.
take a look at it when we take a break. When we take a
I
break
see.
from the depot. Otherwise,
Okay.
I think a lot of people find that tool to be too much information because it's coming at you all at once. But if you just focus on your question outline, and then when you go to take a bio break for the first time, go take a look at what insights it's come up with. It's the same as having a conversation during a break with your associate that's helping you ask these questions and get the answers that we need.
Yeah, that's fascinating. How about any other like case management tools or billing software or anything like that?
We use Clio. I'm currently flirting with a software called Ajax. That's a billing AI billing software that tracks your activity across all the platforms that you use and integrates with Clio such that it creates your time entries for the day. I've tried a AI billable software, I want to say 2 years ago. Again, it was beta testing. A friend's husband started this company, and we were helping them figure out all the different functionalities that the tool would need to plug into in order to effectively track a modern lawyer across a day of work. And that was useful at the times. I had one partner who could not record his time to save his life. I just couldn't do it. And then when he left, we ended up discontinuing our engagement with that software because I didn't feel that it was necessary, as everyone else is a pretty good biller. But then recently it occurred to me that even if everyone's a pretty good biller, I've got 7 or 8 billers, and if everyone's losing an hour a week, that's a significant amount of time every month that's leaking out, even if
Yeah,
it's just an hour per person per week.
yeah,
So, this software is $200 a seat, which would pick up with an extra half hour a month that we pick up on. So I'm
yeah.
going to give it a try.
That's awesome. So when you say you're kind of out these other tools like Ajax, I want to say Ajax because that's the soccer team. Ajax, you said.
Yes.
What's your process for trying things out? Because I think a lot of lawyers have a little trouble. I mean, it's one thing to kind of screw around with ChatGPT when you're trying to figure out how to improve your marinara sauce, but when you're looking at a legal tech product, different mindset for a lot of folks. And I think I've been talking to are they're having difficulty engaging in that testing mindset without worrying too much about security, confidentiality, output, quality, cost. What's your process for looking at new things?
So a lot of it has been word of mouth, right? Or I hear from someone, hey, I checked out this software. You might want to take a look at it. Sometimes it's a cold call or an email that comes through that because I'm already primed to be looking for new tools that can help my firm survive this transition that we've gone through, where now I'm the only owner and it's all on me now. Our level of work has gone up. My business development's been great, and then using these AI tools, I've been able to keep up the level of busyness. Um, but I think that once something catches my ear a little bit, if there's any part of our firm that is a pain point there, I will listen to it, because what I've learned with these couple of tools that I've used so far is that the ROI is incredible. And so
Mm.
that just yesterday I met with Ajax about their ROI and how they prove it. So I'm going to try it for a month. And they then provide you a report at the end of the month showing, compared to the previous month before you had Ajax and this month when you had Ajax, how much more time was captured. So it can show you dollars and cents what its return on investment is. And
Do you try a few cases, or do you just kind of do everything on it and
it's
see?
going to be everything.
So you kind of go all in, I guess taking a risk really, but you don't seem to interpret it as a risk.
It's not
How
a
do you
risk.
make that decision?
Well, it's not a risk insofar as, I mean, my back's against a wall. Right? I've got 10 people that are relying on me for their paycheck, and I rely on me for a paycheck. So I have been, ever since my partners decided to move on, I've been obsessed with fixing the bottom line, improving our return on investment, making life better for everybody that works there. And it's it's not, I just don't see it as risky, because what I'm risking for instance, for Ajax, right? $200 a seat per month. Okay. I can kick $1,000 towards this problem for a month and see if it returns me more than $1,000. And if it does, I'll stick with it. If it doesn't, no problem.
Yeah, yeah. And
Now,
then
I
when
kind of
you,
felt the same way about Legion and Threadio and depositions by Filevine. It's like, hey, you know what? I'll give it a try. If I don't like it, I don't need to continue using it, because none of these things that I've purchased, none of them are subscription models. These are all pay as you go.
yeah, right.
Well,
And that's,
Ajax is subscription, but the other tools that I have are pay as you go, and so it's really low risk.
yeah, that seems like a more digestible risk. And then in terms of evaluating the outcome, it sounds like obvious. You either know it's either working or it's not, or do you feel like there's ever been kind of close calls where you're not really sure, like, hey, I don't know if this is really working? I mean, how do you interpret whether or not it's a success?
Yeah, so a lot of that is anecdotal. So teaching my associates and of counsel how to use these tools and getting them to come around to my very open mindset about it has been challenging. And there's, of the 6 other billers, some of them are really embracing it, and some of them say, I don't like it so much, but I know you want me to use that as a first draft. I'll give it a shot. And so there's definitely room for improvement in all of these. And I've got, like, I just had a conversation with one of my 20-year associates this morning who said, I'm really not liking the discovery that Legion produced for us the other day. There's too many compound this, blah, blah, blah. And I said, that's fine. We don't always get the perfect work product on the first try, but if you learn how to use the tool and go back in and play with it a little more, you can get the draft that you're looking for. And so um, and I think this is true of a lot of lawyers, that if you're inclined to try AI at all, if it's not automatically accessible to you and all of a sudden, breaking open your skies, I think a lot of lawyers get frustrated and walk away. And actually, that was my experience to begin with, because our first AI tool was Westlaw Co-Counsel.
Mm.
And this was maybe 2 years ago, and like right when it first came out. So I've got an office manager who's a young guy who's very tech forward, and he's always presenting me new solutions to look at and to try and help our bottom line. So when I say word of mouth, it definitely comes from him too. Um, so where was I going with that?
Westlaw Co-Counsel
Oh yeah. So
didn't work.
Westlaw Co-Counsel, it wasn't very robust. I tried it for a couple of projects here and there, and it was just so weak that I thought, this is not useful for me.
Mm.
But we bought the subscription as part of our Westlaw. And so over time, Westlaw has improved co-counsel to the point where I now use co-counsel. I should mention this. I use co-counsel to draft demand letters, to do timelines, summarize cases. It does a lot more than it used to do. And so I got frustrated with it, and I gave up, because I said, this is not useful. But then my office manager kept telling me, hey, try co-counsel for that. Try co-counsel. Just give it a shot. And so he encouraged me, and I went back in and tried it again and tried it again. And I figured out how to get it to produce a really accurate, fast work product, especially for a demand letter or something quick and easy like that. It does a great job pulling together all the facts and way faster than I could do. And so I'm glad that I went back and gave it another visit. And so my associates have kind of had the same thing where they try it and it doesn't fulfill all of their dreams all at once, and they get a little frustrated and say, I don't want to do this. And I've had to say to them, no, 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 we're going to do this. You're going to continue using the tool until you learn how to master it. If you give up now, you'll never master it.
I see. So it's kind of like a combination of patience, but you shouldn't have to be patient for too long. And then, otherwise that might not be the right fit. And then it does sound like you are kind of the champion of the technology, but you also have kind of a thought partner that is also really open to assuming opportunities, evaluating them, and being more tech forward. So
Very much
would
so.
it be safe to say your suggestion to other firms would be to kind of have a thought partner that you can dialogue with that is also um, fairly open to the need to try new technology, or you think this is something?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
we as lawyers are so focused on the brief in front of you, the phone call that you need to make, the email you need to return, that thinking about working on your business is not something that a lot of lawyers have bandwidth for. They're working in the business, but as the founder, right, I'm also working on the business. And so not only is it as I'm finding these tools are helping me do my work in the business, right? Having that thought partner who's helping me work on the business and say, hey, this one I looked at, I did a little research on it because it can be overwhelming. There's a million choices out there, right?
right.
And so I think since lawyers are so focused in the work at the time, there isn't the bandwidth or the appetite to go research all these tools. First of all, identify your pain points, research the tools, talk to all these people, do the demos. It's too much for busy lawyers. But having a thought leader who's focused on the business aspect of what you're trying to accomplish as a lawyer has really, I think, been helpful for myself and some of my other friends that have firms that have been leaning more into tech as well. Listen to the young people. Listen to the young
Yeah,
people. Listen to the tech forward people. Listen to your office staff because they get cold calls from these companies all the time too. And he's looking out for my bottom line. And if he thinks that there is something that is going to save us money, which translates into a bigger bonus for him, oh, he's going to show it to me.
right, right. Nice. That makes sense. That makes a ton of sense. I would say listen to the younger people. I don't consider us
Yes.
old. All right. So what I think would be helpful is you had mentioned Legion. We talked about this before. I think it's a very impressive tool. Full disclosure, neither you nor me are being commissioned by plugging this product. We just really like it. And I thought,
Should be paying me. I've been plugging
yeah,
this product everywhere. It is so cool.
I'm just thinking of the cynical lawyers like us that are thinking critically about the content they're consuming. Where this is not a paid ad at all. This is just a quick demo. So what I want to show is um, what Legion looks like now, and just to give folks an overview. Well, I don't want to get too into it. I think most people are familiar with what it's like to do discovery the old-fashioned way, but um, what am I about to show folks, and how does it compare with the old way of having your associate do what we're about to see?
Yes. So the workflow that we're going to see from Legion is, I mean, I think of it when I'm talking to Legion, it's like I'm talking to my second year associate. I walk into her office and I say, okay, we need to draft discovery. So you tell it what case, picks the case, and then what kind of discovery you want. We have choices of different interrogatories. So here we're choosing special. And then you upload the pleading. I would hand the pleading to my associate. And I would say, hey, do set one. We wrote the complaint. So we want to propound, we're Meridian, propound against defendants. And you just click those boxes, and then it goes ahead and starts having you make decisions about where you want your definitions to be, however you like it. So it's somewhat customizable because every partner likes it a little bit differently. And then it starts coming up with the list of case specific definitions, which is showing you right now, which can take a lot of time for an associate to draft. And then once you're fine with the case specific definitions, you tell it to go ahead and run. And what it does is reads the complaint and determines what it thinks you think would be relevant to ask about in a special interrogatory. And so it comes up with this list on the left-hand side here of these suggested special ROGs. And so you can go through and edit them or delete them if you feel like that one's not necessary. And then over on the right-hand side, there's a box that allows you to go ahead and give it a prompt and tell it, give me more interrogatories about this, or change the language which you use to talk about that issue. And then it'll come up with more interrogatories and you just select them and move them over into the list on the left. So it takes care of a lot of the thinking that a junior associate would have done to come up with a smattering of questions. And it ends up being usually a winnowing exercise where you kind of cut down on what's there and then, look out for any language that's compound or anything like that. You can split those up using the various tools that are here. And as you can see, it spit out on pleading paper. How many interrogatories is that? 90 something.
Close to 100.
Yeah.
And the old school way is just copying and pasting from Word doc templates in your hard drive, right? I mean, that's what we're looking at here.
Correct. And so that was done. There it is. And it comes out on pleading paper with your caption ready to go. It's so pretty. I really
And when
like
you edit it, it looks clean. When you edit it, are you editing it in Legion and then out another Word template, or do you just
you can
work
do
with the Word
either.
template?
One of the things that I like the best about Legion is that the way that it's paid, you pay per page that it produces. So it's better to edit and monkey around with it within Legion so that you get it to be exactly what you want. So you're not paying for extra pages that you're just going to go delete later.
Yeah. Which is a really nice pricing feature. And was this one of the products that you felt like there was immediate value, or did you feel like you needed to tinker a bit before you started disseminating it to your staff?
Immediate value.
Really?
Value.
Okay.
The first thing we started with was the complaint drafter. So we do both plaintiff and defense work. I'd say about 50-50. So we started with the complaint drafter and they showed us the discovery, and we have been using the discovery function like crazy. And it's so powerful that in one night I produced 950 discovery requests, which is discovery abuse. I can't propound 950 discovery requests, but at the same time, the complaint that I was sending contention interrogatories on is one of those with super flowery language that used 5 different adjectives or 5 different verbs to describe the same act. And so I had to break down, state all facts showing that he did A or B or A2 or whatever it was. So it's really powerful. And if I had to do that by hand, that would have been, a week's worth of work. And
for sure.
Then Legion is rolling out their motion builder. We currently have beta access to it right now, where it works the same way. You tell your junior associate, hey, here's the documents that I want you to take a look at to put together a demur. Here's the complaint, put together a demur. Here's the documents for whatever, and put it together. And Legion is so smart. You can just talk to it and say, draft a demur to all causes of action, and it'll do that. Or you can say, I had to draft 2 trial briefs for me this summer. And I mean, that was incredible and saved me probably a week's worth of time. It still took me days and days to finish what was there, and obviously plug in all my evidence and everything, but it was immediately helpful.
That sounds great. And so clearly it's a more efficient tool. It allows you to do much more with the time you have. What would you say to folks that are concerned about decreasing billables and what this means from a business perspective? What is the return on your investment if you build? What do the clients appreciate here, or how does this affect your business when you're more efficient?
I'm taking the long view about it. Whereas it used to take 2 days to draft a complaint, now it takes me 2.5 hours. So immediately, yes, there is an impact on my billing. I'm billing 2.5 hours instead of 8 hours on it. But because of who my clientele is, small, medium sized businesses, regular people, not the ultra wealthy, that difference between a $1,500 complaint and a $5,000 complaint makes sometimes all the difference in the world for a dispute that's a $500,000 or less.
Hmm.
So, and I have in my representation agreement line in there that we use LLM models, we use AI. We explain that we've checked all the security functions and all that, and so we're protecting our client confidentiality and data and all that. And I have gotten really great, curious reactions from clients saying, "Oh, what are you using, and how does that work?" And
Really?
I've been explaining to them, I can do a lot more for you in this dispute than someone without these tools could do. I've got a case right now where I'm not going to take it to trial, but my job is to get the case back on the rails before trial in the spring and package it up so that a contingency fee attorney could take it. The previous lawyer never propounded discovery. The case has been going on for 2 years. There's 10 sets of defendants. So I
Whoa.
use Legion to draft discovery, just, you know, 25, 35 questions, sets of four for each. It was 40 sets of discovery. It took me 2 days and it cost a total of $10,000 between my time and Legion's fees. But that 40 sets of discovery for $10,000 is nothing. That was two
Yeah.
weeks worth of an associate's time easily.
Right. And so you're passing through the cost for the software. In this case, it's Legion. They're getting a reduced hourly because you're spending less time. Um, and
So
they,
where does the ROA come in for me, right? So yeah, in the
yeah,
short term, I'm losing billable hours, but what I'm getting is clients who are absolutely thrilled about what I can do for them and the size of their bill, and they're telling everybody they know about how great we are. And I'm getting more referrals from current clients, former clients. I've been talking to my colleagues in the legal field about how we're able to provide more cost effective services to our clients because a lot of lawyers won't touch smaller cases, right?
yeah,
And this is allowing me to be able to service these smaller cases in a much more effective manner. And now my colleagues know about it and they're sending me more cases. So
interesting.
the ultimate effect is that I'm busier than I've ever been. I billed 14 hours yesterday. There is no lack of billing going on in our practice. So although it's each project takes me less time and is ultimately less billing at the beginning, what I'm getting is a bigger book of business. And so if you look at it over the long view, and then I met with my CFO recently to review the numbers for the first couple of months that I was at the helm solo. Our staffing cost is down 27% and our profits are way up.
Fantastic.
It's fantastic.
Fantastic. So it sounds like clients are happy about it. Are there any
Oh,
concerns about confidentiality or security? I mean, you said you mentioned in the fee agreement, but what are your thoughts on security and confidentiality, and how do your concerns get uh, relieved, and what about your clients? How do they feel about it?
sure. So for each of these tools that I use, I have had a robust conversation with the company about what their security protocols are and whether they have I forget what the certificate's called, the SSL certificate or something like
Yeah.
that. Whether the model learns on the data that you put in, whether that information leaks into a bigger database. And so once I'm satisfied that the security protocols for that tool will not violate my duty of confidentiality and my duty of competence, then when the client inquires about it, I'm able to say, relay that conversation. Be like, yeah, I've looked at their security certificate. I've grilled them about this, and I am
Yep.
confident that I'm not breaching my ethical duty. Now, if you don't want me to use these tools, you can tell me not to. It's going to be more expensive for you. Not a
Right.
single person has said, don't use those tools.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think what you're talking about is it SOC 2 compliance that you're talking about?
Yes,
Yeah.
SOC 2 compliance. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, for those that don't know, it's usually it's created by the accountant's profession regarding maintaining internal controls and basically ensuring that the security and confidentiality issues are dealt with, and usually that kind of I think that satisfies most folks. Um, that's great. So now jumping ahead, like what does your practice look like now, a year later? You had mentioned profits are up. You just talked to your CFO, so you kind of already breached that. But I mean, how does it feel from kind of an owner's perspective? Do you feel like you have more control, less? Like how? What other benefits are you appreciating now that you've adopted more technology? And uh, yeah, I mean, how would you evaluate that?
We have more control. I feel like we have a lot more control over our schedules. I mean, I love humans, but having to wait on an associate that has assignments from a bunch of other lawyers in the firm, where you've got to, wait a week or two in the queue for that draft to come out, that wait time has been cut out because now each of us can do our own first draft using Legion in an instant, and there's no wait time. There's no um, miscommunication between partner and associate about what the work product was supposed to look like. It's I feel like our ability to execute has improved a ton. So what it looks like now is that I feel like all my lawyers are more self-sufficient than they ever were. And those 20-year associates that bill out, I mean, I've only been practicing 17 years. My trick is I hire people who are smarter and more experienced than me, and I just give them work. That ends up working fine. So those folks, they, like I said earlier in the conversation, they're past the point where they're doing the first draft. So it was, really for them that these tools needed to come into play, because it doesn't make economic sense to have even a $550 an hour lawyer drafting. I'm 625, they're 550. It's still a lot of money.
Yeah, 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 yeah. What would you tell other practices in terms of practices facing similar pressures to you, that to what you had when you said your back was up against a wall? What would you tell those practices? And then I'm going to ask you what you would tell practices that, they're doing fine. AI's out there, but we're not worried about it right now. Let's start with the first. What would you tell practices that are in your situation a year ago?
Jump in, lean into it. There's no real risk to giving it a try. The worst thing that happens is you don't like it and you're out. Maybe you spend an extra hour on the project using the AI that you need to write off later on. That's fine. But that being said, if you try it once and you don't get it right the first time and get discouraged, then you're never going to pick this up and learn it. Right. So it's not as instantaneous as I think some people would like it to be. We still have to use our lawyer brains. So I would recommend for any firm that's got any of the pain points that my firm is experiencing to really lean in and give it a shot, because there's the return on investment is great. The satisfaction of the clients has been fantastic.
How would they,
Especially,
what should they do first?
I would start with an analysis using maybe someone like yourself, right? Start with an analysis of what are the pain points in our firm? Is it we're having trouble getting first drafts out? Are we having trouble writing down our billing? Are we, charging too much for junior associates to do grunt work? Things like that. I think that after you can identify those pain points, right, then using, what I got to do, word of mouth, or someone like yourself as a technologist, right, to say, hey, here's some software solutions that will address those pain points. Just to have a demo, just do a
Yeah,
demo. It's
yeah,
really no skin off your nose to sit there for 20 minutes and have some salesperson show you how it works. It might blow your mind. It might not. You might
yeah.
say, that's cool, but it's not for me. But at least you looked into it. I mean, I really got the sense that if I don't capitalize on this now, how am I going to differentiate myself in the future? Right.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about the second group, the people, the firms that are like, yeah, my back's not up against a wall. Business seems to be steady. would that be your advice to them? Like, not like, I mean, people always say lawyers are motivated by fear or greed, but what would your advice be to the firms that are everything's copacetic? Would it be what you just said,
These
basically?
these AI tools have improved quality of life for my staff and my lawyers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not only is it, I mean, everyone hates discovery, the drudgery of discovery, it doesn't matter. Um, I actually get a little giddy when it's time for me to go use one of these tools. It's exciting. And like, when was the last time discovery was exciting? It pops out a set of special interrogatories and I'm like,
Yeah.
yay. So it's improved the the joy that I derive from my practice. Not only in terms of doing the actual work, but also the result with the client, right? There's more joy to be had celebrating with the clients. They get their bill and they're not bitching to me about it. So, for those firms that think that they're doing just fine, kind of similar thing with this Ajax product that I'm looking into. I stopped using the previous AI billable software because I didn't think I needed it. But
Mhm.
when presented with this other one, and even understanding that just 8 hours a week, it, really could change my take home pay. I realized, okay, well, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a problem, but if I can solve the problem with AI for a 200% ROI, why wouldn't I?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why wouldn't I? So it's like, I can see how a lot of lawyers would think, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But, it's like, yeah, your iPhone's not broken, but it's from 5 years ago. Get a new one.
Yeah. Now, do you think tech adoption is basically inevitable for lawyers?
I would say inevitable, except that the generation of lawyers that are in front of me, who were, came up before emails were a thing, when there was still fax machines, and some lawyers are still practicing that remember the typing pool,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
go way back. So there's a huge generational divide. I'm 43 years old. I graduated from high school in 2000. I am the eldest millennial. My upbringing spans digital and analog, and same thing even when I went to law school. They taught you on the books first, and then they teach you the legal research tools online. And now my alma mater, USF, is actually teaching AI drafting as part of its legal research and writing curriculum for the first year, and then incorporating AI for the rest of the time as well, because I think the school has recognized, these new lawyers are going to have to know how to use this technology or they're going to be obsolete. And so if I ever hire a junior associate again, it's going to be someone who's very good at working with the AI.
Yeah. 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 That makes a lot of sense. What Well, just kind of wrapping up here, what kind of surprised you most about this journey?
How fun it's been.
Really?
Really? Yeah. Yeah, it's been really fun. I mean, I love what I do. I love helping people, especially with problems that are too small for other lawyers to touch. $100,000 problem, $200,000 problem. That's a lot of money. That's change your life money to most regular people. And I really enjoy being able to bring about a huge change in someone's life for, still expensive, but more cost effective than anyone else could do it. And while I'm doing it, I'm proud of the work that I'm able to bust out in a short period of time. Clients are impressed that, they can send me their documents on Monday, and by Tuesday afternoon, I've got a demand letter and a complaint ready to go.
I mean, that sounds kind of cool.
It's pretty impressive. It's pretty
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. That's nice to hear. I think a lot of lawyers are intimidated by what's out there now, and they're feeling a sense of inevitability, but I don't think they're thinking about it being fun or delightful. So that's an interesting perspective, which I guess would be kind of the answer to my last question, but I'll throw it out there anyways. What one piece of advice would you have for law firms that are AI curious?
Oh, I would say if you are AI curious, most definitely do the do the initial consultations with these firms, right? And then give it a month or two to try, and really push on the gas with it. Not what I did with co-counsel, where I messed with it a couple times and went, this is weak. I don't see how this helps. Forget about it. Had I left it at that and let AI leave a bad taste in my mouth because co-counsel wasn't that great, I wouldn't be in the situation that I am today. Instead, I was able to, have some grit and just stick with it out of sheer determination. Because again, my back was against a wall, right? I don't have a reasonable alternative to get a first draft out. I don't have a reasonable alternative to have a whole other human sit there with me for an 8-hour deposition. I don't have that. The client's budget doesn't support it sometimes, right? So, the advice to those law firms would be to, really make it so that your whole team is trained, right? Everyone gets the initial meeting where they show you how to do it and walk you through the demo, and then regular check-ins. When I talk to my associates about, okay, I'm going to need the first draft of such and such, I will tell them specifically, and I want you to use Legion.
Yeah.
They'll come back to me and say, do you want me to use Legion for this? And most of the time I say yes. And so I have more experience with it than my staff does. And so it's been a little bit harder for them to pick up on the level of sophistication that I have with it now. But because I'm making them continue to try it, even though it feels a little uncomfortable, even though the work product is not totally perfect, it's going to get better and better if we just keep trying. So my advice would be jump in and don't give up.
Yeah. Be persistent, patient, and hopefully results will be pretty obvious.
Right.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you for taking the time. This has been really helpful. I hope that this encourages more practices in your position or in your practice area or in your, in your space to try things out, because I think this profession is really undergoing an exciting change that I know is going to really change the value for clients in particular, but allow folks to access law in a more affordable way that I think might be exciting for the practitioner as well. So
it is an access to justice issue. I will end with that. Yeah. I mean, because like I said, because of who my clients are, right? Those smaller disputes, there's functionally no access to justice because it's cost prohibitive. But now, instead of just sending a demand letter and saying, hey, pay my guy, I sent a demand letter with a draft complaint that took me less time to produce than the demand letter would have taken me without AI. And I'm getting way better responses because they don't know that it only took me 2 hours to put that complaint together. That's a 45-page complaint. That looks like I already poured $10,000 into it, and we're damn serious.
that's awesome.
I'm getting way better responses.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's a good note to end on. So awesome. Well, looking forward to seeing how this journey continues for you. And yeah, we'll be in touch.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sandro.
All right. Bye.
Bye.